I am facing my second no-fault evictions in 2 years. Renting is broken. I'm going to read into this more and this story from Open Democracy, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is Reganelite here with an article from Open Democracy with the headline that I'm facing my second no-fault evictions in 2 years. Renting is broken. 4 years after ministers promised to ban the Section 21 evictions, I'm once again being kicked out of my home. Guys, before I give my initial thoughts, you can hit the like button and share it across social media so others are notified of this video. This is so infuriating. I'm so infuriated with this guys, because why are we delaying the Section 21, the ban on this? It's so out of order. There are so many landlords who are taking advantage of renters right now. So many people who are out on their backside, out on the streets, forced living with their goddamn parents, forced to cuddle up in cramped conditions just to have some kind of accommodation. And what is the government doing? Nothing. They're doing nothing about it, and they are allowing landlords to literally rape the cash out of renters, rape their savings of money that they are trying to make for the future, and it all goes in their pockets. And then when they cannot afford to pay the bills anymore, they are kicked out and flimmed out on their arse. And this government, and you have to remember this, yeah? There's a lot of Conservative MPs who are also landlords as well. Their head is so far up Landlords Association's backside. They really, really are. They are delaying this. So many youngsters, so many of the next generation who want to have that future of owning their own home one day. You know, that dream of owning a home. That's not a reality anymore. It's not a reality anymore. You know, there was a time where I generally believed that I was going to have, I was going to own my own home. You know, I remember me and my partner, we were saving up a lot of money, and then I just looked at the prices, and this was several years ago, and the reality kicked in, and I said to myself, as much as I wanted to own my own home, I wanted to own my own home, but for me, it was always a case of I looked at it and I just thought, I could, going through what you have to go through, that mortgage and all that and everything that goes with it, it just put me off. It really did. And you look at how rent is being managed. You look at, and we have rented, and I have been fortunate enough, and extremely fortunate enough, to have landlords who have been okay. We had one very good landlord we were with, landlords we were good with for 5 years. We had one who was okay, certainly wasn't terrible. Hated that we left after a year because we had no issues. But I was sick of renting where we was anyway. But there's a lot of people who are in situations where they don't know who to go to. I will say, though, obviously, my best recommendation is that if you can afford to rent, and if you are looking to rent, please don't do it between just you and the landlords. Do it between a third party. Do it with an estate company, through an estate company, so that you have some protections against the landlords. Some. I know it won't make all the difference in the world when it comes to this. But do it through them so that you have some protections at least. Don't just do it between yourself and the landlord. Really don't. I will never. If I ever have to rent again, I'm going to make sure I do it through a third party. Never ever will I do it between just myself and the landlord, because then you have to rely on the landlord to do stuff, and it's like, I'm not so sure if I want to do that. So, but for people right now who are renting, and you have your council tax going up, your rent is going up because obviously they want to make money off you, the landlords, and then it's not counting your energy bill. your water bill, and then any other bills that you might be having, like paying for internet, for example, broadband, your food, clothes. Like, it's just, it all stacks up, and it's like and then and unless both of you as a couple are making a decent a really decent jobs, you're going to struggle. And if you're single, you're buggered. You're absolutely buggered because you're not going to be able to afford it all. It's just ridiculous. The prices are just insane. And I don't know how people are meant to live with the thought of getting these Section 21 evictions. You know, I remember only having 3 months to move out of one of my rented accommodations as well, and it was so stressful. It was so stressful. I panicked, but luckily I managed to get a place before it as well, which was good. But yeah, it's pretty crap to say the least, guys. And in 2 years, this person has faced their second no-fault eviction. Second in 2 years. That is despicable to say the least, guys. In 2022, shortly after Liz Truss' absurd mini-budget plunged the UK into economic turmoil, I was served a no-fault eviction. The subsequent increase in mortgage rates had forced our generally reasonable landlords to sell their shared house that I had lived in for 2 years. They returned our deposits, by no means a guarantee, and they gave us last month's rent free. I found a new, more expensive place to live and continued on to my fifth London home in 9 years. Fifth London home in 9 years. None of this was particularly exceptional. No-fault evictions are a way for a landlord to remove you and from your home with just 2 months' notice. No matter how long you've lived there without needing to give any justification for doing so, they are everyday relying on England's broken rental market. I know that because I write about it. As a political correspondent for openDemocracy, I've covered how successive Conservative governments have failed to ban this form of eviction despite committing to do so 4 years ago. I've written about consistent erosion of social housing in England despite misleading claims by MPs indicating otherwise. I've reported on the pressures of the landlord lobby in England in private and in social housing and the disproportionate number of MPs who are landlords. But now the insecurity of the rental market has once again transitioned from a professional concern to a personal one. I am being no-fault evicted for the second time in 2 years. This time the circumstances are slightly different. My landlord, an owner of multiple properties around London, has insisted on frequently coming over or sending plumbers or electricians on her behalf to our home to check up on various non-existing issues. The final straw came when she wanted people to visit every 5 weeks to check our emergency lighting and fire alarms, despite us having no issues with them and there being no legislation that requires this. After allowing one inspection, then finally informing her that this wasn't necessary and that our contracts entitled us to our quiet enjoyment of our own home, she served us with a Section 21 no-fault eviction. Just like that, they can kick them to the curb. Just like that. It's too much power. Eviction is a strong word, our landlord laminated during a phone conversation about discussing her decision. I don't like it. I don't very much like it. I don't very much like being evicted, I told her, but that's what's happening. And so here we go again. Another year, another move. More hours spent scurrying Zuba and Rightmove for an even vaguer, affordable household where a bedroom isn't our largest closet and the living room isn't a bedroom. More nights spent making exhaustive mental lists of all my personal belongings. How heavy is my dining table? How fragile are the new glasses? Plans to grow more tomato plants and sweet peas this spring. Scuppered 2 bags of compost I purchased last week now sit in my house, taunting me about the future I can't invest in. An almost heavy-handed metaphor about the roots that I can't down myself. Despite professionally knowing that there is little power being in tenant, it's not hard to see the realities of a rental market as a personal failure at the darkest times. I feel a creeping dejection that even a 30-year-old, I am such an fascinating and fragile situation as to be rendered without a home for a second time in 2 years. God forbid, considering having children or moving abroad or creative risk, I can barely guarantee I will have a place to live in 12 months. But this is hardly a personal failure. Analysis from Financial Times found that house prices were last unaffordable measures relate to the income of the 1870s. 2 centuries ago, it found that the 1980s, almost half of the 18 to 34-year-olds owned by their own home today, with Almost half live with their parents. Rents are the most expensive since records began, and there's no cap of how unaffordable they can become. And too many people are stuck living with parents and relatives, and it's not. And they don't want that. People want independence. People want to have that independence, but they can't have that because it's too bloody expensive. And no one is doing anything about it. The Renters Reform Bill promised by the Tories to provide private renters now the second biggest tenure in the country with a modicum of agency, has by all means failed. Yet this is not legislation that is currently being watered down by MPs. Its key tenet, banning from the exact evictions I am now facing, looking likely to come into practice anytime soon. This is not just one story. There are hundreds of stories out there of people in this situation. And nothing is being done by this Conservative government. Nothing. The death of a political will is unsurprising. Almost 20% of Conservative MPs, including 5 cabinet ministers, are landlords, and MPs from all parties pulled at least $1.67 million in rental income last year. Yeah, they sure do care about your future, don't they? Despite the stark injustice beyond resisting a legal presented eviction, there is little I can do. That's sort of the point of the no-fault eviction. You don't have to do anything wrong to have your home taken away. But if there is one useful thing I can impact on the face of such madness, unfairness, is to inform others renters of their rights. I would encourage anyone being faced with eviction to check it was served legally. Often they are not, which means they are not valid. On top of that, it is worth knowing that a 2-month notice period will not result in you being physically removed after 2 months. Oh, mine was 3 months. It's now 2 months? Wow. That's bullshit. It is the period before a landlord can apply to the courts for a repossession order, which with court delays could take over 6 months. I would suggest not letting it get to that point of a bailiff turning up if you can avoid it. But don't think you need to be out of your home in 2 months. You don't. You don't want to, or you aren't able to leave after a repossession order. Activists like Acorn and London Renters Union offer successful resisted evictions. For anyone who's a renter, the link for this article will be in the description, so any of this information please take on board. We face a general election this year, and like every year, the rental crisis seems to be low down on the political agenda. Those who rent are statistically younger, on lower incomes from an ethnic minority background. It's no wonder that we barely get a look in the Westminster, where an average MP is aged between 50 and 59 and more likely to be white and a homeowner than the general population. Yeah, it's funny that. It simply cannot continue this way. I am a privatised renter with a consistent income of savings, but the reality is that the broken system is causing immeasurable damage and exploitation to those in poverty, to those more easily exploited, or to people fleeing their domestic abuse. It compounds and exacerbates deprivatisation in a way that is so insidious and harmful that it akins to denying someone of a human right. It is a problem that reaches all areas of society, and yet year after year politicians fail to make changes. Even if the human cost means nothing to you, it is also an incredibly expensive crisis. There is a chance that by writing this I put myself at risk of even more insecurity in the future, that landlords may find this article and refuse to let their property to me. But I won't be a broken system stopping me from speaking out about the injustice renters face every day in and out for knowing their rights. My housemates and I always pay rent on time, handing over thousands of pounds to our landlords every month, and ask for very little in return, simply to be left in our house undisturbed. What can be done? No-fault evictions need to be banned. This must be done properly to ensure they cannot continue through the back door. This means rents increase need to be regulated too, particularly in areas where there is greater demand for housing. This is an imperfect system which can push rents up elsewhere and prompt landlords to exploit loopholes and increase rents between tenancies. This is the best way to protect the majority of renters from sharp price increases. Absolutely. Short-term lets like Airbnbs also need to be regulated so that those properties go back into being homes to buy or to rent. Social housing stock must stop being sold off to the right to buy and must grow dramatically. But this is not a quick fix. Ultimately, housing should not be an easy way to make money. It needs to be less profitable. We are simply too obsessed as a nation at making money off properties, and this has fueled an unimaginable crisis. A house is a home, not an asset, and we deprive people every day of their ability to live fulfilled lives when we forget this. My tomatoes can wait, but my life can't. And it's absolutely true. People only get older. And this is a 30-year-old talking about this. I'm 36, and I'm never going to go out and buy a home, guys. I've given up on it because it's not doable for me personally. As much as I would want a home, I have relatives of mine who are on the housing market but facing difficult challenges. But yes, they own their own home. But I would rather be in my situation than in their situation, considering the bills and everything that's coming at them. And that's just my personal opinion, and they may disagree with me. But when I see what's going on out there in the housing market and the rents, it really does put me off wanting to have any kind of home, because it just feels like money going down the drain, money that you work hard for. It's very depressing, to say the least, and I deplore people who are going through this absolutely disgusting rhetoric of trying to have a home, live in your home, and then to be kicked out of your home and paying extortionate amount of money to these landlords to try and make a profit off of you. Way too much profit off of you. It's just immoral in every way, shape or form, and it angers me. It really, really does, because my generation, the next generation, are not going to be able to have homes. We just can't have homes because A, the homes haven't been built, and B, they're too expensive. So what are we supposed to do? Another lost generation. So what do you guys make of this story? What are your thoughts about renters, the ban Section 21 evictions, and about her story? And are some of you in the same situation? Let me know and share your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you found this video informative and helpful, please click the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share it across social media and subscribe, because it really does help support the channel. And if you want to financially support me in the work that I do here, you can do so by becoming a YouTube member for as little as 99p, or joining me on Patreon for exclusive content. Any of that stuff would be greatly appreciated. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.